So this time it's up for cryptocurrencies as a form of payment processing. So the decentralized manner of the previous story. What I sketched here is just one of the many different options that can be possible. So this is an option we currently see. This is so cryptocurrencies currently used as payment processing. But do keep in mind there are many developments going up. So what do we currently see is not peer-to-peer transactions via Bitcoin, because they are slow, too long, etc. Because you need to wait for 30 to 60 minutes for confirmation and such. So we mainly see the big transactions move via Bitcoin, more of a real-time gross settlement system for the big amounts. And the smaller transactions you see via more centralized variants, like for example the Bitcoin payment processors. In the Netherlands that would be something like Bitkassa.nl or something like that. Bitcoin exchange would be, for example, something like Binance. Of course, the technology still works with wallets and such. It could still be peer-to-peer if both use a wallet on their own, but that would be directly via the Bitcoin network. What we currently often see is that they use an intermediary, or in this scenario, also known as the on-chain scenario, everything is done on the on-chain, so we don't scale yet. It's just the base layer, like 7 transactions per second. That's what I'm talking about, so no Lightning Network and such. Is done via intermediaries, like a Bitcoin payment processor, like an ATM or an application and such, to do peer-to-peer transactions. Well, not peer-to-peer, as you see, pair, payment processor, Bitcoin, pair. So it looks pretty similar like the previous construction, only with different entities. So what happens if you go to off-chain scaling? And this is where it gets interesting, of course, because then we can remove some of the entities. So that would remove this one and this one. And off-chain, of course, in the case of Bitcoin, I'm talking about the Lightning Network. This would eventually result in this transaction. So peer-to-peer. You could create a Lightning hub in the middle, as you've learned with the Lightning Network, but that would cut out all the different intermediaries. Directly transacting peer-to-peer, and of course this is done on Bitcoin. So we move this entire story in this network. We hook it up like via the smart contract, via the hub and such, as is explained in the previous video in the Lightning Network. If you have no idea what I'm currently talking about, please go back to the Lightning Network video and look how Lightning is connected in a sidechain towards the main layer, layer 1, like level 1, via a hub to level 2, and on level 2 the peer-to-peer transactions are done. So that would be an off-chain payment network. As you might have guessed, this is currently upcoming. This isn't being used that much, especially not on a global scale, and most definitely not on a mass adoption. For example, you can't use this if you want to buy your cup of coffee in the street, on a regular corner of the street. But that doesn't need to say that this won't be possible within, let's say, 5 to 10 years or whatsoever. This is technically functional. Of course, now you need to go to mass adoption, which, as you've learned before, is a huge step. Many difficulties lay ahead of that road. This is once more one of the possible narratives. This doesn't mean that this would be the narrative. But if this narrative happens, this means that Bitcoin would be a payment processor with a second layer scale. So you could also build the exact same thing or something similar, sorry for that. You would still be on-chain and you would use something like Bitcoin Cash with bigger blocks. BCH, Bitcoin Cash. And then you don't have this one, you are just integrated on, in this case, Bitcoin Cash, and they can record more transactions. And as you've learned, that has, of course, impact on the decentralization versus scalability versus the third one, which I can't come up now. So every time you change the use case or you change one of the technical fundamentals, you change the entire setting of this ecosystem of payment processing. What the outcome eventually will be, who knows? At least I don't know. I have no idea. Well, I have a estimated guess, but estimated guesses often tend to change, especially when you learn more and when you see more and when you see developments go as they go. So the only thing what you can actually do is start understanding each of these main concepts behind systems like these. And if you want to dive further, actually dive into the systems themselves. In this case, we deliberately write them out for you in the transcript, in the literature. There we will explain them on a more basis. But for the miner, you just need to know that there are different types of payment variants, like the one that I showed you with the exchange and the payment processor. You could also do an off-chain one like Bitcoin Cash, or on-chain like Bitcoin Cash, or off-chain with Lightning Network. Many different opportunities. And then we're only talking about payment processing. We're not talking about real-time gross settlement systems, which is a different system. So you might have guessed there are many different opportunities, many different options. And please, final note in this regard, we are currently only talking as Bitcoin as a mean of transfer monetary value. As you know, value can have many different forms. So for example, certificates or voting rights, or in this case, representing a stock. And that would bring us to an entirely different system, namely the decentralized exchange systems. So we're not talking in that case about payment systems or on settlement systems, no, about exchange systems. That is an entirely different topic on its own, and that we will do in the next paragraph. For now, enjoy the literature. If you have any questions, remarks or suggestions, find us in the Slack, ask Jamie in class, and I will wait for you in the next one.